Laura, I am so excited to dive into this conversation about work-life balance, or like even removing that language work-life balance with you, because I think you have a better way of describing it. And as somebody who's a workaholic, I think this conversation is a little bit selfish for me in the way that we'll transition and what you do to help people in their career. And as we are recording this at the end of 2025, but we are going live in 2026 with this, I think there's some really great things that you can help people with, get their mind in a great place to kick off 2026 to make this year incredible. So maybe the first question that I really want to ask you about is, what is work-life balance in your way of sharing it, way of expressing it? Because
Great
it's a
question.
really popular topic.
Absolutely. Work-life balance comes up all the time. And I tell everybody that it's a big old myth.
Yes.
Doesn't exist. So guess what? You get to let it go because you can never get there. So don't try. I focus on helping people find work-life integration. Because highly ambitious, high performance individuals like yourself love to work, love to be involved in a lot of things, and are figuring out how to put it all together versus trying to make it equal. Like if you think about the word balance, that's two opposing forces trying to be equal.
Yeah,
Well,
it's like a scale, right? Like,
yeah, it doesn't work.
going up and down, and it doesn't. You're right.
Does life work that way? And does life only have two sides?
Oh, is it supposed to only have two sides? That would be lovely at times.
Wouldn't it be nice? But we don't. We have families, we have relationships, we have community, we have to think about our health, we have to think about our emotional wellness, we have to think about how we want to grow in our careers or as people. And our lives change over time from, we were free and easy back in the, university days when life was simple because we just went to school and did what we wanted to do. And then, life took over and maybe some of us got married. Maybe some of us have kids, or maybe some of us have aging parents or spouses or partners who are not well. All of a sudden life changes. So there's no way to balance all of that. So my recommendation is don't try. Instead, figure out what matters and be okay with learning to be flexible and integrate all the pieces of your life.
I love that. I love the concept of throwing out this term work-life balance, because we do hear it so frequently. And I was doing some research before we got on and realized that that term actually was developed in the 1970s and really kind of took hold in the 80s. So when you and I were kids, this whole concept, and mainly because women were going back into the workplace, and we had like this sandwich generation kind of creation, right? Where we're looking after our aging as well as children and trying to balance all of that. When you think of integration and you think about your 5 frameworks, why don't you take us through kind of the different areas that we need to integrate or consider when we are looking at trying to create this work-life relationship?
Great question. So there's 5. So there is work. So our day-to-day day jobs, the ones that give us usually a paycheck, I'll say. Then there's our relationships. So our relationships externally. So to our families, to our partners, to our friends, to our community, to all of the people that are around us. So those people, that social network, that connection. Then we have our emotional health, which is really the foundation of it all. So I do tend to do a lot of work with folks on resilience and how to build those muscles that drive your emotional fitness to kind of hold everything else together. And then 4th is our physical health. If we're not physically well, if we're tired or we're always getting sick or we're feeling out of sorts, our physical body takes a toll on the emotional side, which doesn't let us perform anywhere. And then finally is growth. And growth is that aspirational piece. Like, where do you want to be in the future? What is your vision? How do you see your life unfolding? So really, we're talking holistically about life. And those are the 5 parts of it. Now, other people may call them different things. That's totally cool. And some people may slice them a little differently. Again, it's not about just having 5. It's about what works for you. And so what happens in my coaching with my clients is we think about what works best for them and how they would like to label it. But we're usually talking about the idea of flexibility, of integration, about learning from what we've tested out and moving that forward with us with a new framework.
One of the topics that I heard you say in this 5 framework is that emotional portion and getting that right. And as a communication specialist, emotions are what drive our communication success or failure and lead to our credibility or people not liking us. And so when you think of the emotional aspect of work life integration and building this whole system, what is it that kind of roadblocks us from taking that time and understanding our emotion?
Oh my, there's so many things that block us, but let's talk about the most popular. There are quite a number. So when I think about emotional fitness, that's our ability to be okay with ourselves. Period. Full stop. But the things that block us are we want to please everybody. There's a voice in our head telling us we aren't good enough or smart enough or tall enough. There's our constant doom scrolling on Instagram so we can see everybody's perfect life and we compare ourselves to that. And that's the shoulds that show up. And then there's also that whole idea of I need to be perfect. That whole perfectionism of I can't start until I have all the right conditions. So when those things come up, that blocks our emotional fitness. So those are the things we work on. More than anything, that's where we spend a lot of time. And by doing that, by working on those things and acknowledging them, that builds our resilience. That helps us bounce forward with new information and new learning and helps us stay emotionally fit and be able to navigate that flex that we need to be integrating and that opportunity to share with others how to grow from that position.
So the one that you said is that don't start till everything's perfect. That is definitely mine. That is like my roadblock and my thing that I do. And I get into this like start, stop, like it's like this difficulty. But one of the things that I find really challenging when I think about emotional fitness and working on it is like, how do I practically do it? So
Yes.
there's one thing, and this is my frustration with a lot of emotional intelligence training, is it's like, you should act like this, but it's like, how do I like figure that out? And why, maybe this is a 2-part question. Why is it valuable to work with a coach like you who can help pull that out of us?
Okay, that's a couple of questions. Great. So first of all, the word should is a dirty word.
Mm-hmm.
When we say should, we're immediately judging ourselves. And we're immediately comparing ourselves to somebody else or something else or some other standard or expectation. That drives guilt. That drives fear. That drives procrastination, which goes over to that perfectionism thing. Perfectionism is actually fear in disguise. It's fear of failure, and sometimes it's fear of success, which is always a very interesting conversation with clients.
Both sides of the spectrum there.
Both sides. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to be good at this again. Yes. Guess what? You're already good at it. So go do it again. It's just fine. So working with a coach like me, I point out those kinds of things. I help people actually see what they're saying, the words coming out of their mouths. One of my superpowers as a coach is to reinterpret and repeat back to my clients what they've said, but in words they didn't say. Let me share an example. I have a great client, love her to death, and the word try comes out of her mouth all the time. And so in one particular call, we were doing some fast work together over a few days. She really wanted to like tone up on a few things. And we were talking and try came out 1,000 times. I was like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? She keeps saying try. So I said, you know what? You say try a lot. What does try mean to you? And she kind of clicked on it and went, oh my goodness, I do say it a lot. I said, so what is that? She said, well, if I don't do it, then I don't feel so bad. I said, Ding, ding, ding. That's the question. It's not about try, it's about do. So we drive to action. So as a coach, I don't help people try things. I help them experiment, which means we're going to iterate on what we've tested, versus try giving us an immediate out.
I love that. So as a trained hypnotist, try is one of those things that we use in hypnosis to have people fail. Like, I'm going to try and pick something up. They're not actually doing it, as you say. And it's interesting how language becomes pervasive and sets our mindset and gives us these outs. One of the things that I think is really interesting is that when you train as a coach, like you and I are both trained in the language of coaching, in paying attention to those words, having somebody reflect back to what it is you're saying, asking you to clarify what it is you're saying, is a skill that's not often taught in management as they move up and they are trying to coach others. And I think it's one of the main reasons why when you are trying to shift positions or do these shifts, it's important to reach out to an executive coach because they'll help you identify
Yes,
these exact problems that you're saying, right? Like,
exactly. So part of one of the great things I love to do with my clients is because they'll come to me with, I'm burnt out, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know where to start, I don't know where I am. That's usually where I'm at with the senior leaders I work with. They're at the top of their game. They either want the next role or the word overwhelm is really what comes out of their mouth. And I always ask them to show me their calendars.
Mm.
So they'll show me their calendars and we'll dig into that because that's where we can start to talk about what boundaries are you setting? Where do you have where is your energy? How do you spend your time? How do you flex between work and life? Where do those things actually take place? Where's you time? Where's thinking time? And the eye opening that happens during those moments is incredible. I've also had people who've shown me calendars that are totally blank. And they have the phrase is usually, I don't believe in calendars. People can use me at any time. I'm like, are you sure?
Oh, God.
Are you sure? And so what I help people do, like right at the very outset, and this is foundational to your emotional fitness, is recognize that they own their time and they own their calendar. Mm-hmm. And so we work on boundaries and we work on thinking through those things because that builds our confidence. When we can set a boundary and hold it, that builds our confidence because the world didn't crash. Nothing fell apart. And then they can start to see the benefit of that and they work on that with their teams.
Yeah.
That emotional fitness, that piece starts there.
There was 2 nuggets of gold in there that really kind of resonated with me. That one that I know I need to do better at, and that is setting thinking time. And like giving myself that time to process, that time to think, that time to reflect. And I think it's one of those skills that when you set that boundary in your calendar, like literally label it. This is my thinking time. I was doing this with a group of engineers and I'm trying to remember it's a funny phrase. Anyways, but he used ChatGPT, right? To come up with a meeting title that sounded like he was effectively doing something, right? Like that it was a really important meeting. But it was really just to give him space and thinking time and creating that boundary to say, you know what, I need this space. But he wanted to put like something in his calendar that people would be like, okay, I'm not going to interrupt you during that time.
Right.
So he played with ChatGPT to try and find what that language was for him for that meeting. The other thing that I've read that you talk about, because you had mentioned burnout, is this concept of burnout versus boredom.
Oh.
And helping understand the difference between burnout and boredom.
Sometimes there isn't. You can be burned out because you're bored.
Yes.
And not challenged and not feeling of value. So burnout doesn't just have to be, I'm maxed out, can't think, stressed to death, and can't see anything in front of me. There's all kinds of burnout. There's that one. The other side is the boredom one. I'm not challenged in my job. That's the quiet quitters.
Yes.
They're
Yeah.
burnt out. They can't find more to do. They don't want to find more to do. That's the languishing stage, a little bit languishing before you get into full burnout. And so how do you put those two together? The issues become the same because we don't, usually when we're in that boredom side, we're probably still not hitting our deadlines. We're probably still not delivering the quality we want to, probably procrastinating a lot more. So all those things keep piling up. We may be feeling of less value because we're bored and no one wants to challenge us. And what we're forgetting all the time on both sides, and I can tell you because I lived it myself on the tougher side, is we have choices. We can say no. We can say yes. We can choose to not be bored and ask for more, put our hands up. That takes confidence. And that takes knowing what to ask for. Perfect example, cool client that I work with in a large organization. They don't want to put their hand up because people are going to look at them funny. Why are you doing it? Then if you do it, then I have to. She's taking on everyone else's emotions around the situation versus thinking about, you know what, sometimes I have to think about what's good for me too. And me saying I could take this off your plate, leader, is good for both of you. So that piece is really, really interesting to think about. The burnout side, we have choices. We can choose to say no.
Yeah, and that comes back to that people pleasing, being a perfectionist, like especially with high achievers, right? Like they really keep trying to go on and on. I see this often in the engineering world who I work with mainly is these brilliant people who just keep showing up and putting in the hours and like, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to work longer hours. If I do, that shows that I am being exceptional. But the reality is that may not be the best path for you.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, does it really take that amount of polishing to make it perfect?
Yeah.
And is perfect really achievable? Because we're going to keep the goalposts are always going to move.
Right.
So it's determining at the outset, what is the expectation and what does good look like? I would suspect that the folks you and I work with, good is freaking amazing.
Yes. Yeah. The level of good is like above and beyond.
Right.
And so it becomes really an interesting challenge because I think as youth, they were all like high performers, praised, like they were always going for that next goal. And so when you work with your clients who are those like people who are exceptional, what is it that finally causes them to be like, I need to reach out for help? Like they don't like help, is my experience. Right? I am not going to admit that I'm broken or that there's something going on, so I won't reach out for help. But so what is it that finally is like, okay, I've got to do something about this?
Most of the time, it's not saying that they're broken. It's saying that I want more. And I
Okay.
need someone to help me think that through. So when I talk about being a coach to my clients, I tell them I am their thinking partner, their sounding board, their accountability buddy, their role play buddy. And I always tell them that I'm their biggest cheerleader. So they are in this space because this is safety for them. They can't talk about what we talk about with their boss or their peers. This is their container to just let it all out. And there's no judgment here. I'm totally objective. And what most of my clients say is they love that this is their objective space. Because I don't know Susie, and I don't know Mark, and I don't know Raphael. I don't know these people. So I will always be on the side of listening to them from their perspective and offering new questions, new things to think about based on that information.
I think that's the power of a coach. One of my beliefs and one of my philosophies from coaching that I learned in coaching is that I always believe that you have the right answer within you. You just
100%.
sometimes need someone else that's not in the circle of all of the other influences to be able to have those conversations, to be able to think through it, to be able to reflect back with you. So we've spent quite a bit of time thinking through the emotional portion. Let's dive into the health portion. So
Sure.
why is great health important to finding that work-life integration? How does that help us?
So I will speak totally from personal experience because I'm not a doctor. I'm not a naturopath. I just have done a lot of reading. And
Yep.
at this part of my life, I have sons that are like in their 30-ish area, got little grandkids running around. And I decided about during my burnout situation, I thought the best way I could take care of myself was to figure out how to get back to doing running and walking and getting through that emotion, like literally working the emotion through my body. And as I was studying burnout, Dr. Jacinta Jimenez, her book, The Burnout Fix, is like phenomenal. She really helped me think through here's the pieces that I'm missing. So I was neglecting all of that. Get out of my chair? No, why would I do that? Like movement, who needs that? So I got into doing yoga. I am not a yogi by any stretch of the imagination, but I do yoga 3 times a week. Um, all of that work helps you process the stress through your body. So that at least helped me sleep a little better at the time.
And
So
sleep is super important to go as part of our health regime.
yes,
I I think one of the things that's really important in health is finding out what works for you. Right? Like you were
yes,
like, I need to get back into running. I do it through a weird combination of ballroom dancing and weightlifting.
excellent.
And like, they sound like complete opposites, but they are my way to find joy, to find a way to get my health in place. And I know that when I sleep really well, I perform really well the next day.
Yes.
But when
Or
I
even
am not sleeping well, it's like terrible. Mhm.
absolutely. And you can feel it all the way through things and your eating gets off. So if your eating is off and you're having all this junk, then your sugar crashing during the day, all the things. Like,
Yeah.
someone once told me like our bodies are like little chemistry labs, right? Like they have all these little inputs and things that happen when you do certain things. So, just staying focused on the fact that I don't work out 30 hours a week. That doesn't happen. Come on. Like I'm not doing 75 hard or 75 easy or any of the
Right.
other things. I have my tread. I love working with that. That's it. That's all. And I religiously work to get onto it 5 days a week. And if it's for 5 minutes or for 50 minutes or for an hour and a half, that's what happens on that day.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
actually for myself. Like I tested out working out in the morning. Everybody says, work out in the morning. It's so good for you. No,
Yep.
it's not. For me, that's my creative time. That's when I want to be like thinking through things, journaling, flip charting, writing, doing fun things for myself.
Yep.
5 o'clock is usually when I hit the tread because that closes my day. Done with work. Now I'm going into life. Great.
I think that's important too, especially with those of us who work from home or those of us who are high performers, right? Is sometimes having those activities that cause you to close down to say it's 5 o'clock.
Mhm.
I am now shifting. And for those of you who work at home and are, I love working at home and doing all of that and having the remote, having a really clear signal to stop, to turn off the phones, to turn off the computers, to stop responding to email. I think I read you talk about a post on LinkedIn where them and their husband were both
Yes.
watching Netflix and like doing like
Work.
answering emails and responding to work emails until some crazy time at night. And it's really not the best for your relationship. So maybe
Right.
we can dive into the relationship because that
Sure.
is the big wheel in your a series of gears and wheels that you have in your book.
Relationships keep us whole. We are put on earth as humans to be connected. Whatever theories or concepts you believe in on how we all got here,
Yep.
we got here. There's no just one single I got here. So we are meant to be with other people. And so enjoying those relationships and understanding who the right people are to have in our world makes all the difference to how we get through life. Like, I think that the biggest thing we could do at the end of our days is be able to say, I lived well because I lived with the right people. And that doesn't mean in your home, but just in your life.
And when I think of living with the right people and relating it to our workplace, it's also choosing the right company and the right culture for you to be
Yes.
working in. because sometimes it can be the right job, but it's the wrong people. And the wrong people around us can really, in my opinion, lead to that burnout, lead to that boredom,
100.
lead to that, I don't want to be here. And I don't want to get out of bed in the morning, on Monday morning, to go to work because I really don't enjoy the people that I work with.
Well, and the people, human apart from the work role or the work behavior, just because we're working on ourselves doesn't mean everybody else is too.
Very true.
And because we may be self-aware to certain degrees, others could be to lesser or more degrees. So there's always going to be a level of friction until we get to understand each other. So that takes a lot of work to build trust, to foster a solid relationship, to understand how to navigate conflict together, how to communicate and share ideas, collaborate and think through things together, and just even to understand who your audience is. So all of that includes the work we just talked about. It includes understanding yourself, understanding your boundaries, how to set boundaries with other people, how to build some agreements or commitments around how we work. Spend a lot of time with clients on that. How do you work with your team?
How do you help people navigate boundaries, not just with people in your work, but in your personal life who kind of, one of the things that I think about is in our personal, in our work life, we allow our personal interactions to take it, causing us to be out of sync. And then we use in the evenings, we allow our work life to take over our personal, right? And we don't end up creating that space where I can have space with my personal people without work interfering. And I can have space in work without people interfering. Yeah.
It's totally true. It all is going to mash together because it's hard to separate them. And I say that to my clients too. Like, listen, I can't just coach you at work. It doesn't work. Whatever we're talking about at work has to spill over into life. It just happens because you're just one person.
Yeah.
And so we think about setting those boundaries. Boundaries are for everywhere. They're not just here, just for work. You know, if there's an event next weekend, you know, we're in the holiday season right now and there's lots of things going on. I don't know if you can do all of them. And if you can't, it's okay to say, you know what, I'm tapped out this week. I wish you all the best for the holiday season. I'll see you in the new year. Maybe we can grab a coffee. Or here's a date for coffee. Like I had to do that today for somebody. It was just like too many things are going on. And so that one had to move. And they were like, whew, that I could use that hour back. I'm like, great, awesome gift. Now, is it always going to go perfectly well like that? No. But we do need to recognize the fact that we are human, time is finite. When it comes to work spilling into personal, when personal spills into work, usually it's an emergency, usually something's going on, usually there's a doctor's appointment or something's happening. So they can kind of be taken care of and encapsulated and maybe not planned for. But when work spills into personal, we've built that habit ourselves.
Right.
So we need to start questioning, why do I need to do that work after dinner or after I've put the kids to bed? Why does it have to be now? Like, whoever I'm doing it for, are they going to actually look at it tonight? Or are they going to do something with it tomorrow?
Yes.
And so
I had a conversation about an hour ago with somebody actually.
There you go. See, and sometimes it's even like, you know, I talk to a lot of my clients about like Mondays and Fridays. Why would you put a deadline on a Friday?
Yes.
Who's going to look at it? You're not going to look at it. Give your team some grace and go, how about Monday afternoon if you have this to me? Because that's when I'm going to look at it.
Yes. Yes. I thought it was really interesting because what I heard you say is a lot of our personal boundaries are because like there's something in an event. That being said, I work with a lot of guys who they're like, if I don't respond to my wife, and it could not, and a lot of times, or I don't respond to my kids, a lot of times they've given them so much of a leash that they can call them anytime, regardless of whether it's important or not.
Right.
How do you help people work to set those boundaries? Because that's one that I think is really important to share. And I don't think people talk a lot about it.
You're right. You're right. And so to me, that works the same way as it does at work. So let me back up just a little bit.
Yeah.
So with the boys, when they were in high school, they had their phones like they would, or university as well. And they knew that work time was from here to here. So you could text me, but I may not get back to you But if it's an emergency, put this little emoji, then I know.
Right. Yeah.
And my husband's the same. He will call me and I will be, because he doesn't like to text. He will call me. I will be on calls all day. If I don't answer, he knows.
Yes.
If he calls a second time, then I know there's a situation.
Right.
The only one that I know that I will answer immediately for the phone is my parents, because they're in their mid 80s and late 80s. And so when they call, I like freak out.
Yes.
But my clients know that, and people know that around me. So I've set those expectations with people. So with your kids, it's the same thing. Have a conversation with them. Like, mom's not going to get back to you between these hours because of this. Or if you need to text me, here's where I have here's my usual free time. Yeah. When I first started working from home and the boys were in high school, grade school and high school, they would go, so what did you do all day, Mom? And I'm like, I did some work because here's my office and here's all the stuff. And they're like, oh, summer vacation. Can you make us lunch? Can you do this? Can you do that? I'm like, I'm working. So the kitchen's over there and you know what you're doing. So it's literally just having that conversation, having that open conversation.
Yeah. And I think it's a conversation people miss on a regular basis. Like, to me, relationships are all about conversations. And the better you have those conversations and are willing to approach these subjects, such as, here are the things that create my boundaries, whether that be with people in your personal life or people in your work life, those conversations are critical to the success of creating that work-life integration.
Absolutely. One of the phrases I've been using lately has boundaries demonstrate where you end and someone else begins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And especially at work, that feels really helpful for people because others understand what they're empowered to do.
Yep.
You may not need me for this. That's totally cool. Go do your thing. It's great. We don't need a 1-hour meeting. A 15-minute chat would be great, or a 2-minute Slack message would be even better because you got this. So same for the kids. Like, if you're texting me at work, like, what are you texting me about? Is it a question, or is it a situation, or is it just you want to say hi? Mm-hmm. So have some fun with it. Work with them on it and have them tell you how they want to communicate. And because it could be as simple as they think you want them to.
Yeah.
And so guess what? Clear that up. Maybe it's better to just have dinner table conversation.
Oh my gosh. I think we need more dinner table conversation in general.
We sure do. We sure do.
I think that time is so valuable. One of the things that I like, and I think that was a really good tip, and it's making me think about how can I use that on like Slack or Teams or any of those messaging services, was using the emoji at the start that gives me that trigger to say, oh, I need to respond to this, or this is something I can get to at a later date. I really love that idea, and starting to think about what are like 2 or 3 emojis that I can use in the workplace that I can help coach my clients with, to say, okay, let's create this symbol to say, I need a response now, or when you get to this, it's here. Because I find one of the things that, being somebody who works remote, it's all messaging back and forth. Yes. Like, I live in a world of like a sea of messages. And so I'm always keeping that open, which is become a habit that I realize I need to do something about. Where when I was in the workplace, right, and you talked about people who have like this open calendar with nothing in it, that would drive me nuts as a logical person. But it's creating space that says, here are times where you can interrupt me, and here are times where I need to focus. I need to be head down and do work. And I think setting those clarities in different communication methods is really important.
I agree with you. And I think what it also does when you put that emoji kind of thing to it, you're giving other people, you're empowering them to actually make the choice and make decisions. You're not interrupting them. One of my very favorite people in the universe, and an amazing leader, when he took over an area, he said to the team, listen, this is how we're going to use Slack. There's like way too many channels. So our team, this is how we function. When I post something in it, there are going to be action items, things for you to look at or be aware of, or urgent things.
Yes.
So urgent things, he said, will always have your name added on it. Great. If I want you to look at something or know something, it's going to have eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's an action item, it's going to have a check mark next to it. So all I need you to do not respond to the thread. All I need you to do is when you're done the thing with the check mark, put the check mark. And if you've looked at the thing that needs to be looked at, put the eyeballs. That's it. No thumbs up, no flashing stars, no gifts, nothing else. Just those two things. And the urgent stuff, take it away and come back to me directly.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden it was very, very clear. And then we had permission as a team to go, I can't look at that right now, but I can look at it later. So you just kind of parked it and reminded yourself to look at it later.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, do it now, right? Like it was really helpful.
Yeah, I really like that. That's a great strategy. For those of you listening, write that down.
Yeah, good one.
About it with your team. How do you implement these different strategies to communicate really well so that you can reduce burnout, reduce people in this constant cycle of like responding and needing things?
Well, you're so right, Nancy, because here's the thing that happens, right? We train people on how fast we're going to respond because we do it that way. We train them.
Right.
We're just as guilty as those trying to like push stuff on us, or we feel that they're dumping things in our direction. I had a client who was on a new team and they had every kind of mode of communication: email, Slack, text messages, phone calls. If there was 5 more, they probably had them all. And so what I asked her was like, how do you like to get communication? What communication should go where and why? And so that led her to have the conversation with the team around how should we be doing this? Because we don't need to have all these things. Right. Certain things are useful at certain times for specific reasons. So let's figure out how to use all these amazing tools that we have in the best way possible that suits our work. And part of it was that heads down time, there'd be a little timer symbol on their, they were on Slack, on their little Slack. If the timer was on, that meant don't bug me. Because Slack was where they did all of their communication.
Mm-hmm. I'm writing content right at the moment on meetings and how to communicate better in the workplace. And I'm going to steal this one. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to steal
Go for it.
Talk about how to utilize these type of tools, because I think this is really powerful. And I've never had this conversation with somebody about it. So everybody, I'm blatantly stealing this. You'll see some content.
Go for it. I'm giving it. Take it all.
Yeah, but I think there's like such great juice in it. So
can I give you one more then?
Yeah. This conversation is so much fun.
Especially about meetings. I love talking about meetings. Meetings. My clients are always in meetings. We're always in meetings, right? That's how life works. Sometimes we're in so many meetings, there's no time to actually do the stuff, which is how they end up in the problem and why we're talking. But meetings, if they don't have an agenda, you have full permission to say no. If I don't know why I need to be there, what my role is, what the outcome is, what we're tackling, and how I prepare, I'm not coming to your meeting. So I have a meeting audit.
Yes.
So I'm happy to share that with you. When you do your content, feel free, let me know. But that meeting audit is literally going through not only why do these meetings exist and what's the point of them? Are they the right length, right people? Should I be there? So mentally for myself, but then also how does your team look at their meetings as well?
Yes.
Like we have meetings on our calendars because we always have had them. So why, instead of thinking about how is this actually serving us at this moment in this way?
Yes. And there is so much around meetings. I was actually reading some research the other day just on one-on-one meetings, and I really do think there's value in one-on-one meetings. They're done really well with your boss strategically, or even with your boss's boss. But in the world, it's estimated that the world is spending like $1 billion a day in one-on-one meetings. It's like insane dollars, and over half of them are not effective. So like $500 million is being burned every day in the world from that. I want to keep going because we're running out of time, and I really want to get to these last 2 areas in your cycle. One is the next bit is work. So we've talked emotion, we've talked relationships, we've talked health. Tell me about work.
Tell you about work. There's so many things to tell you about work.
one thing people need to know when thinking about work to
It's
help
not
them?
your life. It's a part of it.
Yeah.
That's the simplest way to put it. It's only
Right.
a part of it.
Yes.
I will bet when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to say, and I'm sure you've heard this,
Yeah.
I wish I worked more.
Yeah. Yeah. I know there's research out of, I think it was a nurse in Australia who interviewed people on their deathbed, and it was more like, why didn't I say no to that? Why didn't I take time to do the things that brought me joy? Why
Right.
didn't I, instead of, why did I work so many hours? So
Right.
when you're helping a client with work who's feeling potentially burnt out, who's feeling maybe bored, what is the one thing that you help them think through, or what is one question that they can ask themselves as they look at it 2026 and think about, what is this portion of my
Mm,
life going to be this year?
you're taking me into a whole fun spot right now. So I want to ask them, I always ask them, how will this serve you?
Mm.
Who do you want to be? And if you think about the sentence I ask people to think about pretty regularly is, I want to do this type of work with these types of people and make this type of impact. This
Yeah.
is the one that matters.
Mhm.
And so even as they're thinking about like their roles or their positions or their changes that they want to make in the future, I always ask them, so what's the impact of that?
Yeah.
And when you think about your work is making an impact somewhere. So you're a director leading a team, and your job is to really develop these people
Yep.
to do this stuff,
Yes.
whatever that stuff is.
Yes.
And all of it is valuable
Mhm.
because it's yours.
Yes.
So if they can sit there and think about that first, then they can start to sift through, how did this burnout get here? Well, if it's the burnout of the overwhelm and too much, is it, do I have the right people? Have I delegated well? Have I gotten out of their way? Have I followed up? Have I been clear on my vision and strategy? Like all of those things. Those are all the questions we'll go through. If it's the board side, it's, okay, so what can you do about that? So who can you ask for help? Where would you like to end up? This is the big one. Are you done here? Because sometimes that's a thing too.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes we don't want to let go, even though we know
Right.
we're like we are so done. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Exactly. And there's a whole lot of fears that come with that right
Yeah.
now, anytime. And right
Yeah.
now there's been a lot of rifts, and a lot of clients are going through some situations there where they're seeing it happen around them or to friends. And so like, how do I help them get through that? And so we talk about, here's some of the questions you can help them think about that shift them out of the not to eliminate the emotion, but to help them work through the emotion, think about, okay, but what could be next?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So true. Oh, I will have to say, when I got let go from a job, they were doing massive transitions in organization, and the whole leadership team eventually was let go over a process. But it was like the biggest relief ever. I had staff reach out to me like, I am so sorry. And I like went home and opened a bottle of champagne. I was like, thank God somebody put me out of my misery.
Because I wasn't going to do it. Right. So
Exactly. Right?
yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't going to do it. So I just kind of want to go back to our conversation on work and helping people recognize when they need to let go. So one of the things you mentioned was this letting go, and I know this was a problem for me. It's like, I want to keep showing up, I want to keep doing the work, but I knew there was a big disconnect between me and the company and the culture.
Yep.
And so how do you help high performers really take that time to navigate through? Because that goes back to the whole emotion.
Yes.
Right? Like the emotional connection to that job.
One of the questions I ask a lot is that really yours to do?
Mm.
Because we sometimes take on a lot and forget that there's people around us that need to be doing that work for them to come up to the next level so that we can go to the next after that.
Yeah. Yes.
In our roles, especially as we get into senior leadership roles, is to scan the organization and look across and see What can we take off someone else's plate to help us get to that next level? Because if we're taking something off that plate, then we're coming up to that level. And then we're making space for others to do the rest.
I think that's really important. I have always had this belief in my life that I was always looking for someone to fill my role. Because if I couldn't find someone to fill my role, then how am I going to get to the next level? One of the big challenges, and we're having this conversation with a group of engineers this morning, is that when you shift roles as well, you need to let go of some of the things that you're doing and get uncomfortable learning a new mindset, a new way of doing things. And I think some of the reason we end up in burnout is we still hold on to doing the work of the level below us.
So I will put it in engineering speak. We are adding versus subtracting.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
As we go up further in the organization, I tend to help clients think through the fact that you're learning and then you're doing and then you're being. So even from a people leader perspective, you're learning to be a people leader and your manager roles, figuring out how to do all this, and someone's coaching you along and mentoring you, and you're learning by all the leaders you had that you didn't like, and you're not trying not to do those things. And then you're doing it. So you're a senior manager, you're a director, you're doing that. Then as you get into senior director, VP, then you're being that leader. That becomes part of who you are. And it's like anything else. It's like ballroom dancing. You didn't go out being the best award-winning ballroom dancer on the first time you put shoes on. But you are now.
Very true. Very true. Right? And it's funny because my husband and I are in our gold levels of ballroom dance. And I realize how little I know about ballroom dance. The more I move up, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, when you're like new in it and you learn patterns, you think like you're doing really well. But as you're
learning,
up, right? You're learning, you're testing, and it's like, oh, look at these different things that I can do. But when you try to perfect it and be it, it's a totally different experience. And you start to become really, I think, aware of where you need to grow. So the last portion of your 5 elements is growth.
Yes.
What does growth mean to you? Because I know what it means to me, but I'm curious to hear your definition of growth.
Growth to me is all about finding that next iteration of yourself. What else do you want to learn? What else do you want to test out? Where do you want to experiment? Where do you want to explore? How does that change who you are to get you to that ultimate version of how you envision yourself on that last day?
Mm-hmm.
And so I help people really think about that on a big level, 3 years out. We talk about it 3 years out. What do you want to be 3 years from now? And we talk about all facets, all of those 5 things.
Yeah.
And then we back it up into, okay, this year. And right now, at this part of the year, the end of 2025, I go through a list of questions with all my clients. And part of it is reflecting on 2025. Part of it is like just doing the thinking around what is 2026 going to look like. And in Work Is Not Your Life in the book, there's actually like an integrated week and an integrated year framework. And I talk about how I do the integrated year with my husband, because that talks to me and him together about how we want to grow. What do we want differently next year? Or what did we love about this year that we want to take with us? We're at that really special time in 365 days cycle that there's stuff we get to leave in 2025. We don't have to take it with us. That's amazing. Let's leave it there. There's stuff like that, right? So I focus people on thinking about where were they in 2025? What was meaningful? What was energizing? And then what was heavy and what was out of sync and what didn't support all the parts of your life? And then I asked them to think in 2026, by the end of the year, what will you say you have become? And there's other questions that go with that, but those are the 2 focus areas, because if we don't start with the end in mind, we're never going to get there anyway. It's like that blank calendar. How do you know what you did?
Yeah. Yeah. And the because I come from the project world, right? I see it all as a project. One of the things I'd love your opinion on this. This is something that you may not have even thought of. But as we grow, we need to fail. And I was listening to my favorite podcast video is Diaries of a CEO. And I'm not sure if you've ever heard it, but he has on his team somebody that their position is the head of failure.
I
And
love that.
isn't that cool? And their goal is to run experiments. And the goal is not for the experiments all to succeed, right? The goal is how can we run experiments and be okay with failure? And one of the things that I hear you talk about in this process is, right, we need to experiment instead of trying things. We want to experiment with things. And so it just made me like really connect with how that organization and the reason they say their business has grown so quickly is because they are willing to experiment and allow failure and the number of experiments to be a KPI that they measure.
I love that. That's so cool. I would create a parallel to that in my writing about resilience and bouncing forward. We're
Yes.
never and the permission, I hope the permission that I give everyone in the book to like do it over or just start again. Okay, so I didn't run 5K today. Can I do it tomorrow? Most likely. So I'm going to just start it again tomorrow. It's totally fine. Like life is going to happen. We should never demand ourselves to be perfect because that's not a thing. So this idea of experimentation and failure, yes, fail fast, fail often. That was like a mantra back in the day.
Yeah.
Failing is only telling you where you need to go next. So I talk about bouncing forward. Something doesn't work, learn from it and keep going.
I think one of the biggest challenges, though, and that sometimes gets us into burnout, is we are afraid to fail. And because of it, when life gets messy, and this is the area that I really think I want to end on, is this concept of how life can get messy for us. We can't plan for everything that will happen. People get into car accidents, events happen. And if you don't have that flex and be like, okay, I can put this down. It's okay if I fail in this area because I'm going to have to deal with the fact that life is messy.
Yes. That's why the emotional fitness, the boundaries, all of that work together because the calendar, all those things we've put into place help you have something to rely on when you're in the mess. Like, here's my sweatshirt today. Trust the process, even when it's messy. Yeah. Like, I'm always talking about the messy middle. And it is messy. It's like terribly messy, but it's also fun because that's where we learn. It's also interesting, exciting, and it's scary as hell. So if we have some of these tools in place, that's when we can rely on them to help us get through that messy part. When we have to stick a pin in something and pick it up later, it's okay because we know we've had to do that for this purpose. And we've not tried to do everything and then not done anything well, which I think is sometimes where that fear comes from.
Yes. Yes. Laura, this has been such a fun conversation. Thank you so much for allowing me to extend it and move forward. For those of you who this is your first time getting to know Laura, Laura Crestan is an executive coach, author, and straight talk champion for bold growth. She helps leaders build resilience and emotional fitness needed to thrive without burning out. She has over 25 years of global retail, SaaS, and nearly 2 decades of private coaching. It almost makes her sound like she's 100, doesn't she?
Not yet.
And she cuts through the overwork culture and teaches people how to lead with clarity, strength, and purpose. She has recently released a book earlier this year called Work is Not Your Life and is a coach for telling the truth with heart. I will put the link to how you can get the book below. I will put all the links to where you can follow her on social media, LinkedIn, her website, so that you can connect with Laura. If you are struggling with burnout or trying to figure out that next step in your career, what you want to do, how to be the most incredible version of yourself, that is what we are here to do. And I encourage you to reach out to Laura and see if she's a good fit to work with. Laura, if there is one thing that you would like to share that we have not mentioned today, what is that?
Let me think, because this is a really good question. Thank you, Nancy. It's been super, super enjoyable being on this with you. I think let me just go back to, we did cover it, but I'm going to reiterate it. Work-life balance is a myth. The real decision is integration, choosing on purpose what matters and just letting go of the rest.
I love that. So today, as you look at the rest of your day, what is it that you're choosing that matters, that is going to bounce you forward in your career, your life, your relationships, your health, and your well-being, so that you can be successful? My name is Nancy Michele. This has been a great conversation with Laura Crestan on engineering better conversations. And if you know of somebody who needs to hear this conversation, who is stuck in their career and trying so hard to be so great, then I invite you to share this podcast with them. Give them the opportunity to start to choose and make the decisions that are great from them. Cheers. Thank you, Laura. It has been a pleasure.
Thanks, Nancy.